Today I want to talk to you guys about two things that we do, and often we do them for the wrong reason. One is looking back. We like to call it reminiscing. Makes it sound a little bit better. And number two is drawing a line in the sand. Not literally, but if you want to go to the beach now and draw a line in the sand, it's fine. But figuratively. So often in Scripture, we're told not to look back. We see in the Old Testament Lot's wife. When they're told to leave, they're told not to look back. Lot's wife turns around and looks back, and she becomes a pillar of salt. Not exactly the same idea of what I'm talking about, or not exactly the same thing as what I'm talking about, but the idea is there. Oftentimes we look back because we're missing something. We're afraid of what we're going to go to. The Israelites did this. As they were leaving Egypt, as they were crossing the Red Sea, as they were wandering the desert, they were missing what they had known in Egypt and not trusting in what God had in store for them. They were willing to draw a line in the sand, and now they had lots of sand, just because they wanted to stay in Egypt. They didn't understand God's plan for them. And too often, we stubbornly draw a line in the sand, saying that we're not going to move. We're happy where we are. That imaginary line in the sand is something that we won't step over no matter what. But when we draw a line in the sand and say we're not going to move, we limit who we are, who we can become. And so, today I'm going to share about my story. I don't know all of your stories. I don't know where you've been, where you're going, but I do know me. So it's safe to say that I can tell my story. I want to take a look back over my life, but not focus on the things that I've done, but to tell you God's story through my life. Even if I didn't see it at the time, God was moving me across the line in the sand that I drew. I drew that line because of my limited view. As we draw a line in the sand, we need to take a step out, across that line, believing that God has a plan for our lives. Now, I won't bore you with all the minute details of my life, because somebody decided to talk for a while. I won't mention names. So, I'm going to skip the first 16 years of my life. Okay? It's the awkward time, and the things that I can't remember anyway, so no embarrassing stories, and so sorry if you wanted those. We can talk later. But where I want to start is at 16. I was a good Catholic Italian boy. I went to church on the weekends. I was an altar boy. I went to CCD classes. But one day I had the realization, is this for me? What is this God thing all about? And so I started to drift away. Now again, because I'm a good Catholic Italian boy, I continued to go to church. But I stopped being an altar boy. CCD classes were done for me. I remained connected, but not too well. Then, one day, a new pastor moved into the town, into a United Methodist Church. They started a youth ministry, and all the people that I knew were starting to go to that youth group. I had mentioned in my last sermon that there was one girl in particular that would not let up, and she asked me to go every day. I finally went. I didn't want to go there because of the kids that I had seen going there, that they were different at school and at church. But yet I was doing the same thing of being different at home and at school. Anyway, one Sunday night came, I finally decided to go. But once was all that it took. I had a great time. The people there loved and cared about who I was. They didn't pressure me to become somebody that I wasn't. They cared about who I was at that time. Now, I continued to go week after week to youth group. And then I decided to start attending church there. I stopped going to the Catholic Church and just went to the United Methodist Church. For me, it was a great decision. For the rest of my family, it wasn't. I still, to this day, have family members that don't say hi to me when we first see each other. It's, "You left my church." I was walking away from everything that I knew. But yet, as I drew a line in the sand and went from the Catholic Church to the Methodist, I needed to take a step out, believing that God had something in store for my life. Now, it was a tough time trying to explain why I was going from one church to the other. To bury the details, it worked out. I started to take my faith very seriously. I heard the gospel preached. I saw how a church can support, love, and function if their focus is on Christ. Now, in dealing with all of those issues in high school, I was still soon going to graduate and go off to college. When I was applying to schools, I applied to 6 different schools. I only wanted to get into one, which is what most people want to do. They want to get into one school. It was the closest school to where I grew up. Looking back, God had a different plan in my life. The one school that I wanted to get into turned me down. The other 5 schools gave me full rides, scholarships, dreams, aspirations, but the top school said no. So, with the top school saying no, I went to the next closest one, and that was Widener University. As I drew a line in the sand and went from high school to college, I needed to take a step out across that line, believing that God had a plan for my life. Now, in today's day and age, you've got high school kids that are traveling around, visiting colleges, and getting to know them. I never went to the school except for orientation. I knew nothing about Widener University. I knew that it was close. I knew that they promised a lot. So I went. That fall, one of the things that my youth pastor said is get connected to the ministry there. And so that fall I got connected with Campus Crusade for Christ. I met a guy by the name of Jim Barth. We had become friends. We hung out a lot with each other, all while at school. Through Jim, I met a guy named Dave Coryell. Little did I know then what those relationships would mean today, but God knew all along. So I was at Widener for a year, and I became president of Campus Crusade for Christ. Now, I should tell you that I did not receive that position because I am an amazing leader. I was a communication major. All the other people that were regular in the leadership of Campus Crusade were engineers. So by default, I was chosen. Because apparently, communication majors have less to do than engineers. But as I look back, I can see that that role was preparing me for the leadership roles down the line. As my second year at Widener was in the midst of that, I was riding to dinner with Jim and his parents. We're going out to dinner, and I can't tell you everything that happened inside that conversation in that car ride as we were traveling. I do know that we went to KFC, but that's about it. But in that car ride, Jim's mom said to him, "You know, Jim, if you're not getting an education for the money you're paying, you should look to transfer." Little did she know how much those words hit me. Because of my time at Widener, in my first year, into my second year, I knew more than some of my professors did. And I was struggling with, am I paying this amount of money and getting this education to help me? But in the midst of it, where do I transfer to? If I'm going to transfer, where do I transfer to? I had 4 other schools that had accepted me and given me promises and things. I never thought in that time of any of those 4 schools. All I knew was Widener. I had friends there, and I was still living in New Jersey, so I had ties to New Jersey. This is where my best friend Steve comes into play. We had been friends for years. He was a year behind me in high school. He had graduated and went to Messiah College. In the midst of me telling him about, I wanted to transfer and things like that, he said, "Why don't you transfer to Messiah?" He says, "I don't know about their program, but it's a great school." So I applied. Now, to go back a little bit, to go forward, in the midst of my dilemma of transferring, I had parents. And I said to them, "How do you feel about me transferring schools?" Just to float the idea out there. It didn't go well. But yet, I still decided to apply. I don't know what happened, but something changed. And something changed in my dad's mind. And I was enrolled at Messiah in the fall of 2002. As I drew a line in the sand and went from Widener to Messiah, I needed to take a step across that line, believing that God had something in store for my life. Now, in the summer of 2002, I was visiting with Steve's family, and his mom looked at me and said, with all sincerity, "It's great that you're going to Messiah. You can now be a youth ministry major." I thought that was odd. I said no. I was going for communication. My goal was to own my own radio station. After about 2 weeks of being at Messiah, I was walking out of chapel with a girl that I had met 2 weeks ago. And for whatever reason, we're talking, and she goes, "You must be a youth ministry major." I said, "No, that's so weird. Somebody else just said that." But taking a look back, I knew there must have been something to this. So as my first semester was wrapping up, I was getting ready to register for next semester's classes. I thought to myself, if God wants me in youth ministry, He's going to make it abundantly clear. And now, when I went from high school to college, I was the first person in my family to go to college. I'm the first person to graduate from college. And so, that was a lot of pressure. I succeeded. I graduated college. I'm done. Check it off the box. Check the box. I'm done. And so, transferring from Widener to Messiah, there's this little thing called credits. And the only time if you're in college or are going to be going to college, don't listen to this portion of the time. The only time grades matter are when you're going to transfer. Because if you get anything lower than a C minus, it doesn't transfer. Welcome to my life. So, in that process, I lost some credits. So I had to make them up. My goal was to be done college in 4 years. I didn't want to be a doctor, didn't want to be a lawyer, didn't want to go multiple years. 4 years was enough. So, bring it back. I'm trying to decide youth ministry or communication. So, I sat with the book and I said, God, whichever one has less credits, that's the one I'm going to do.
Wow.
And because you laugh, we know that God has a sense of humor. Because as I looked, they were exactly the same. And so, now Messiah has the ability, at that time they had the ability to be able to make your own major. And so I could have been a hybrid youth ministry communication major. However, that took paperwork and a lot of writing, so that wasn't going to be an option. I spent many nights talking with my resident assistant, praying to God, talking with friends. Nothing seemed clear. Until one night, I got a phone call out of the blue from my friend Jim, who was still at Widener. He told me something that his youth pastor, Dave, had told him. In short, it was, stay with communication and pursue youth ministry once you get out of school. So, I stayed with communication while at Messiah. But yet, I had to draw a line in the sand and continue to be a communication major. But yet, I needed to take a step across that line, believing that God had something in store for my life. Now, as my years in Messiah were coming to a close, I had to think about what I was going to do after school. Now, the summer of my junior year, I had interned at a radio station in Delaware. And to make up the credits that I lost. So, as I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do, I called them and I said, hey look, would you hire me when I get out of school? They liked me, I liked them, it was a fit. And so they said sure. So, I had my life was figured out after college. I'd start my career in radio. However, looking back, God had a different plan. So, it was probably a couple months before school was going to be done, and Dave calls me out of the blue. And he tells me that Jim is going to go to seminary. He's going to intern with him at this church in youth ministry and live in a farmhouse in Ephrata. And he said, do you want to do it too? I said, sure. So I applied for my master's at Evangelical. I got accepted. I called the radio station and I said, hey look, things are changing. I'm going to work for you over the summer, but after the summer I'm starting my master's program. And so I drew a line in the sand and went from college to radio, to youth ministry, to my master's. All the while, I needed to take a step across that line, believing that God had a plan for my life. So in August of 2004, I moved to Ephrata, Pennsylvania. I moved into that farmhouse. I interned in youth ministry. All things that were not part of my plan months ago. Now, to make this story a whole lot quicker, I graduated seminary 8 years ago. I have my master's in divinity. I went from intern to part-time to full-time ministry for over 12 years there, to being married, which is a sermon on trusting God alone, And maybe one day my wife will tell that story up here, but who knows. But for now, I'm going to leave off with so many more examples of taking a step across the line, believing that God has a plan for my life that I could share. But as I look back over all the things that have happened in my life, from the time that I was 16 till now, I can say that if I continued to live the life that I wanted, I would not be here today. I can think of 2 Corinthians 5:7. Small passage of scripture that holds so much weight. In that passage of scripture, it says to live by faith and not by sight. I couldn't see what was going on with me in the midst of it. However, God did, and God knew, and had so much more. All I need to continue to do is draw a line in the sand and believe, as it says in 2 Corinthians 5:7, to live by faith and not by sight. There's a lot of times that I want to do things on my own. But yet, I've learned that if I do things on my own, I can fail. An example of that, if we look in the New Testament, Peter. Peter loved Christ and would do anything for him. One day, Peter had the idea that he wanted to walk on water. I don't know about you, but I think that'd be cool. I'd love to do that. I mean, think about it. I could walk across the pool, not get wet. Maybe it's not your dream. I'd love to walk on water. Okay. But anyway, he saw Jesus out on the water. Jesus told him to step out of the boat. Peter stepped out of the boat, kept his eyes on Jesus, and walked on water. When he let the distractions of everything else that was going on around him distract him, he sank. We don't have the ability to see what's coming tomorrow. But God does. And if we walk in faith with our eyes on Him, we can succeed. Now, it's hard. I could have continued on my path, and I thought my path was a good one. Widener at the time was a good school. I liked the people there. Campus Crusade for Christ was good. I was able to stand up for my faith with others while there. I even saw a great career in radio. However, taking a look back, God saw so much more for me. Throughout my story, I've only shared small portions of it. There are portions of my story that have pain associated with it. If we look to the Old Testament, we can see an example of God using people in bad situations for good. There's moments in my life that I felt alone, that I wish there would have been somebody else with me. But yet, God was. The example in the Old Testament that I want to look at, or tell you about, very quickly, is in Genesis. Joseph. He was put through a lot of difficult circumstances. He was beaten, thrown in a cistern, sold by his brothers to a group of nomads, who then sold him again. He was placed in high ranks, thrown in jail, placed in high service in the jail, taken out of the jail, and then put in second in command in all of Egypt. There's no way that Joseph would have been able to know that he was going to be okay. At that very moment, when his brothers decided to beat him and throw him into a well. But his faith in God showed him that he was going to be okay. God protected him and blessed him while he was being drugged throughout Egypt. He trusted God, and God took care of him. Now, unlike Joseph, a lot of the circumstances that are bad for me, I put myself into. But God can use those as well. God moved me to places that he needed me to be, just like Joseph. Joseph had to trust God that he would be protected. Just as I made my moves from Messiah, with communication, graduating, continuing my education, interning, full-time ministry, I had to draw a line in the sand and take a step over it, believing that God had a plan for my life. God has a plan for me. God has a plan for you. The last example that I want to talk about of God protecting and providing for his own is the one that we've been using, that Pastor Kevin has been using in this sermon series. Jeremiah. Jeremiah sent a letter to the exiles in Babylon. Now, for those that have been with us, this should all be review. It shouldn't be new. They were in Babylon because they weren't focusing on God. They got distracted and focused on other things. God sent Jeremiah to write them a letter to the Israelites to say, look, things aren't bad. Things are going to get better. But first, you need to continually walk with me. This is what happens with us. If we keep our eyes on Jesus and walk by faith, we can succeed. If we take our eyes off of Jesus and we put them on ourselves and walk by sight, then we, like Peter, like the Israelites, fail. Things aren't always going to be rosy with our walk with God. I mean, think of Paul. In the New Testament, Paul, before his name was Paul, he was Saul. He was on top of the world before his encounter with God. By the world standard, he had everything until his encounter with God. Once his encounter with God, he was continually on the run from the government, routinely beaten, thrown into prison, and bitten by snakes. Yet he focused on God, and he changed an entire people. God used him for so much more than he could have ever imagined. Paul kept his focus on God. I believe that God will do great things through you and I if we continually focus on him. I don't know what God has in store for us next, for you, for I, but I choose to believe that God has me in his hands and has a plan for my life. So draw a line in the sand, take a step over it, and believe with me that God has a plan for our lives. Let's pray.